Imagine being born in a box. This box is no bigger than the average bedroom. It contains everything you need to live comfortably, though. Food, water, light, ventilation, clothes, entertainment, an oven, a bed. It's not a grand life, but it's a peaceful one. Pretend that this is all you've ever known. What do you think would happen to you if the walls of the box suddenly fell, exposing you to the outside all at once? What would you do? How would you change? What if your grandma was a motorcycle that you could ride? These are the central questions of Hunter x Hunter. Among all shonen anime and manga, Yoshihiro Togashi's second grand epic is one of the most widely beloved and revered. The story of a young boy on a quest to find his deadbeat father is one that has resonated with many. And, you know what, the story just keeps getting more and more relatable every year. If you ask an anime fan what their favorite shows are, Hunter x Hunter is bound to come up. The series is so beloved amongst its fans that it has managed to not only survive, but seemingly thrive through 12 significant length pauses in publication. If you're not familiar with the series, or just the manga industry in general, 12 notable breaks may not seem that bad, even in comparison to other book series. I mean, seriously, if you think being a Hunter x Hunter fan is hard, you should try being a fan of A Song of Ice and Fire. We haven't had a new book in 11 years and counting. Well, let's stock up on some context first. Hunter x Hunter began its publication in the Shonen Jump magazine in 1998, and unlike many of its contemporaries who were published weekly, Togashi's crown jewel would release semi-regularly and kinda inconsistently. This schedule would continue until 2008, which is when the hiatus floodgates were opened and the 12 great Hunter x Hunter droughts came into being. Among these calamities, the shortest lasted for a little over 2 months, while the majority, 7 of them in particular, lasted for over a year. This is largely due to Togashi's back problems and failing health, which prevented him from even being able to sit in a chair at the worst of times, much less draw. Although many, myself included, recognize that the health of the author is clearly more important than a simple story, this has not stopped the fanbase from coping with the lack of content through several in-jokes. Fans have dubbed the series Hiatus x Hiatus. If you look up a list of the series' story arcs, some will include the over 3-year break that just ended under the name The Great Hiatus Arc. When a new chapter of the Epic of Gilgamesh was unearthed recently for the first time in over a century, Twitter users, of course, as Twitter users do, likened its release to a new Hunter x Hunter chapter. These jokes are everywhere, which makes sense. Its release schedule has become an integral part of the series' identity, and the constant discussion about it proves just how passionate the series' readers and viewers are. For a very, very long time, though, I simply just did not understand them. I used to be a Hunter x Hunter hater. I just didn't get why people love the series so much. Every time I would talk to somebody about it, they would rattle off praises and praises and praises for the characters, the world, the plot, the action, and I would rattle off pejorative phrases until both of us agreed to see other people. I was under the impression that all Hunter x Hunter fans were either high, in denial, or both. But something changed inside of me. I mean, clearly something changed, or this video wouldn't exist. Yes, it's true. Hunter x Hunter has wormed its way into my heart and taken a respectable spot on my list of favorite show/book series of all time. So what happened? Well, it's pretty simple. I actually finished it. It would be nothing less than insulting to claim that Hunter x Hunter is anything less than a masterpiece, and I have to talk about it, even if I'm only screaming into a void. I could claim that I'm making this video for other people like myself who didn't finish a series, or to introduce others to it, but I'm really just doing it for my own entertainment. Still, if this helps either of those two groups come to appreciate Togashi's wonderfully weird and possibly never-ending journey, then all the better. So let's get started with the comprehensive guide to Hunter x Hunter. Manga, TV adaptations, and more. Spoilers will follow this point of the video, so watch at your own discretion.
experienced Hunter x Hunter enthusiasts will often be able to tell exactly when somebody stopped watching the series based on how they complain about it. With a lot of shows, complaints from those who couldn't get into it are pretty uniform. Better Call Saul is too slow. Lightning bolts! Stranger Things gets dumb after season 1. Hunter x Hunter, however, does not work this way. Across each of the series' 9 story arcs, every single one of them introduces their own slew of reasons to keep or stop watching the show, only for that list to be just thrown out and replaced by a new one when management changes. Among the different categories of quitters, the ones I feel the most bad for, though, are the ones that quit right away, during the Hunter exam arc. Let me explain. The shonen genre has drawn more than its fair share of comparisons to the American superhero genre, and rightfully so. In a way, shonen stories are Japan's equivalent to them. Action-adventure tales about larger-than-life heroes with special powers and pure hearts who fight diabolical villains, all generally targeted at a younger male audience. The two formats do have their differences, though, such as how shonen stories remain largely standalone, whereas superhero comics often play into a larger connected universe. But one area that they don't differ is in their reliance on conventions. Modern shonen are criticized in much the same way as modern Marvel movies, for playing it safe and sticking to the formula. Chief among these formulas are the entrance exam and the tournament. These two events are somewhat shockingly uniform across the genre. To find examples of tournament arcs, you could look at Naruto's Chunin exams, the World Tournament in Dragon Ball, the Dark Tournament in Yu Yu Hakusho, or the Korada Coliseum for One Piece, to name a few. If you want entrance exams, then you'll find them once again in Naruto's Chunin exams, Fullmetal Alchemist's Alchemy exam, Demon Slayer's Final Selection, and many, many more stories. There's a reason why these kind of stories are so popular in shonen. They provide a great avenue to consistently dole out action scenes, allow time for side characters to take the spotlight and receive development, and, in the case of entrance exams, they provide the series with a clear early game goal. This is because oftentimes the main character needs to pass the exam and become a part of whatever organization it is they're applying for in order to pursue their long-term goal. Naruto can't become the Hokage if he doesn't pass and become a Chunin first. Actually, that's literally the only objectively wrong example I could have chosen, but you get the principle. This device is so useful that you'll even find it outside of anime. I mean, take Kingsman the Secret Service for an example. But what does any of this have to do with Hunter x Hunter? Well, Hunter x Hunter is, at its core, a deconstruction of the typical shonen. There we go, I said the thing that you have to say in a Hunter x Hunter video to make you sound smart. A large part of its purpose as a piece of art is to take the conventions and tropes of its genre and subvert them. Let's look at the series' primary protagonist, Gon Freaks, to demonstrate this. Damn near all shonen stories are some form of power fantasy. They're made to make you feel awesome when the main character does something awesome, because you relate to them and you see yourself in their place. This desire to make the audience feel powerful when experiencing the story is the driving force behind shonen's real biggest convention, the great hidden inner power. So many shonen protagonists have some innate feature or ability that puts them leagues above where any normal person at their level would be able to achieve. Naruto has the nine-tailed fox, Ichigo has his hollow form, Luffy's got the gum-gum fruit, even Denji has the chainsaw devil. These power-ups exist because although it is satisfying to see characters have to train and slowly build up their strength over a long period of time, that kind of structure would prevent them from being able to participate in fights and have cool feats in the early sections of the story, therefore killing the fantasy. So what secret power does Gon have?
The power of being 12!
Unlike most of his brothers from other authors, Gon is just a normal kid. This leads to him getting beaten down and thrown around by those with more experience more than basically any other protagonist in a shonen I can think of. Most main characters in this genre will lose maybe one fight throughout their entire series, two, like a few, but they'll win most of them. But it would be generous to say that Gon wins even 50% of his. Togashi made the series this way to shine a light on an overused trope that he believed was hurting the genre. It's the entire point of it. Bringing this back around to why people quit watching during the opening, you have to build an expectation in order to subvert it. That is the purpose of the Hunter exam arc. Hunter x Hunter's first section is largely a pretty standard entrance exam mixed with a tournament. A good one, for sure, but standard. If you're a well-versed fan of the genre, nothing about this part of the story will stand out to you as particularly novel. And if all you're getting is something you've already seen with a new coat of paint, it makes complete sense that you might want to drop the show in exchange for something actually innovative like Chainsaw Man or Attack on Titan. Despite the fact that this image is meant to satirize the logic behind gambling addictions, I believe it truly demonstrates the experience of a first arc quitter. This beginning lays the normal groundwork for a shonen series so that the rest can take an entirely different direction, but unless somebody tells you that beforehand, you would never know. Because of this, I don't blame anybody that drops the show here, but I do pity them. I'll come back to this topic later, but for now, I feel that I should probably actually talk about the arc, starting with the central character and the drive of the plot. As I mentioned earlier, this story stars a spiky-haired, green-shorted, 12-year-old fatherless boy named Gon Freaks. I won't go into depth with every single part of the story, but I want to put the first chapter of Hunter x Hunter under the microscope specifically, as I believe it has a lot to teach about Togashi's writing philosophy as well as about Gon. For a basic summary, Gon catches the biggest fish on the island he lives on, the same fish that his father caught as a child, fulfilling his deal with his aunt that said he could leave the island to take the hunter exam once he was able to accomplish this feat. Gon's father is a hunter. Hunters are members of the aptly named Hunter Association, who, once they earn their license through the rigorous exam, can kind of do whatever they want. There's not really a lot of rules. They're given lots of money and access to every country on the planet, and some of them study animals, some are archaeologists, bounty hunters. There's a few that are actually just chefs. Actually, it's kind of unclear if they actually cook. It seems like they just eat. So, where do I sign up? So anyways, Gon leaves his home to become a hunter, hoping that it will bring him closer to finding his father. It's a simple start to a long and winding journey, but there's something I neglected to mention. Kite. Kite is technically the first character the audience is ever introduced to. See, he's on the first page and Gon is on the second. I'm right, you can't fight me on that. Kite came first. Kite plays the role of providing Gon with his call to adventure. In a flashback contained within Chapter 1, Kite saves Gon from being killed by a full-grown fox bear, which is it's like a fox and a bear. The name kind of says it all. He then reprimands Gon for trying to take care of a remaining baby fox bear, despite the fact that he is actively trying to rip his heart out. After being moved by Gon's spirit, Kite helps treat his wounds, and the two share an incredibly important conversation. As it turns out, Kite is a hunter, and Gon's father's student. Jing Freaks trained Kite before disappearing from his life, only leaving him with the single mission to track him down and find him, which would truly bring an end to Kite's studentship. Kite and Gon part ways within a single day, but not before Kite gives Jing's license to Gon, beginning his desire to join the association. There are two things I find interesting about this that are worth keeping in mind for later. The first is that although Gon's primary motivation for becoming a hunter is to find his father, his admiration of Kite also plays a very significant role in that decision. The second is how Kite is treated in the series going forward. After this first chapter, Kite does not appear again until chapter 186, the equivalent of 76 episodes in the 2011 anime. This is rather indicative of one thing Togashi values most when writing his characters: personal motivation. Let me explain what I mean by that. Hunter x Hunter is a story with a large ensemble of characters, and typically when you're dealing with an ensemble cast, the different members will be given their own motivations to follow. This is a subtle method of telling the audience who to get invested in, because it promises that these people will receive resolution of some kind throughout the story, as what was the point of setting up their motivations if there's no payoff? A reverse Chekhov's gun, if you will. Togashi approaches this subject a bit differently. There are a shocking amount of characters in Hunter x Hunter, and a shocking amount of them have unique motivations. But instead of crafting the story to follow and resolve all of them, Togashi instead chooses to make them much more human. We've all had friends we really cared about who we just don't see anymore because now they live 10 states away, or because they went to a different college, or whatever, life works that way. In that way, Hunter x Hunter's world is the same as our own. We follow Gon's motivations throughout the series, and other characters stand alongside him, but only as long as their motivations and his line up in the same place. Once a character can't further their own goals within the limitations of the current story, they leave. They go off to do their own thing. Even main characters aren't immune to just leaving the story under this philosophy. On some occasions, they're gone forever. Togashi imbues each and every one of his characters with a supreme sense of independence, giving the impression that they're more than just steps on the plot diagram. They're real people with their own lives to live. I've sung a lot of praises about the way Togashi writes characters, but how about the ones he actually wrote? Are they just as worthy? Yeah, I'd say so. The Hunter exam arc introduces the audience to 4 quote-unquote main characters, as well as its very own cast of supporting figures. Basically every arc has an entirely unique cast, so I'll be reviewing them all as we go. I've already discussed Gon a bit, and I won't have to say much more, because Gon is fundamentally a simple character. He is the shonen protagonist. Cheerful, determined, not the most radioactive microwave in the IKEA, and constantly making friends everywhere he goes. His relationship with his father does add some mild novelty to him, but there's no point in this arc where he pushes past the standard. But much in the same way that Demon Slayer manages to embody every shonen convention while pushing them to their purest form, Gon is conventional perfection. Seeing him face challenges so far beyond his own limits without ever losing his smile never fails to make me smile. The problem with simplicity, however, is that it'll eventually lose its appeal to predictability, which is why Togashi gave Gon friends. I wish Togashi could give me friends. Many anime feature a trio of main characters in accordance with the rule of three, which states that in stories, things are generally most interesting when grouped into trios. This structure is perfect for one-note characters like Gon, as they no longer have to carry the entire show on their own. The other members of the trio basically act as support pillars for the central protagonist, with Kurapika and Leorio being our pillars for the evening. Kurapika slots into a relatively common role within anime trios, that being the talented one in the group. He consistently displays a level of mastery, knowledge, and power far beyond any of the other protagonists. He actually kind of embodies the typical shonen power fantasy that I spoke of earlier, harboring an ingrown secret power in the form of his scarlet eyes. See, Kurapika is a member of the Kurta clan, a group of people whose eyes turn bright red when they experience heightened emotions. Unfortunately for him, though, he's the last of the Kurta, with the rest having been wiped out in a single act of genocide. This act was committed by a band of thieves called the Phantom Troop, who hope to collect the money from the sale of the Kurta eyes, which are highly valued on the black market. Kurapika's motivation for the rest of the series is to bring his people's killers to justice and to reclaim their stolen eyes. If you're familiar with Naruto, then it might help to think of him as similar to Sasuke Uchiha. In fact, both are the last living member of their own clan whose eyes turn red while experiencing heightened emotions, giving them access to increased levels of power on top of their natural genius, which they both use to exact vengeance on their clan's killer. Now, that may sound like plagiarism to you, it sounds a little bit like plagiarism to me, but make of it what you will, Hunter x Hunter came out first, so we don't have to worry about it right now. Kurapika is definitely the most reserved and serious of the characters we see in this arc, which gives him the very important role of straight man within the group's dynamic. Once you work your way past his stoic outside, though, you end up seeing a legitimately kind and caring person who just wants the best for those he cares about. This duality plays a key component in his character arc throughout the series. The complete opposite of Kurapika is Leorio. Leorio primarily serves as the group's comic relief. He's loud, bumbling, somewhat idiotic, and always lagging behind Gon and Kurapika's prowess. These traits lead him to butting heads with Kurapika especially, with the two of them constantly bickering like an old married couple. Above all else though, he's defined by his greed. Leorio only wants to become a hunter for the money. The association offered a bigger paycheck than any other job, and suddenly Leorio manifested out of nowhere to take the exam. He's initially rather off-putting, and I'd go out on a limb to say that he was most people's initial least favorite. That is until they pull back the curtain on his past. The crux of Leorio's backstory is poverty. He grew up dirt poor with nothing to his name except one close friend, who would go on to die from a completely curable illness that they just simply couldn't afford to treat. He's motivated by money, sure, but the reason he wants that money is so he can become a doctor and stop as many preventable deaths as possible. He may be a bumbling idiot a lot of the time, but he's also so dedicated to his friends that he's consistently willing to lose everything for them, even his life. Every one of his impulsive actions is motivated by a legitimate desire to help others. This all makes him wildly endearing to both the audience and the people of his world, which will become important later. Overall, he mainly serves as comic relief, but the way that side of him is balanced with his more positive traits prevents him from ever becoming annoying. By the way, this man is supposed to be 19 years old. Sure. With all three main characters now introduced, we can now move on to everything else. Oh yeah, there's actually 4 protagonists. Killua Zoldyck is the last main cast member to be introduced to the show, despite being much more important overall than these two. In fact, Killua is no mere pillar. He's a bridge onto himself. Being the deuteragonist of Hunter x Hunter, Killua gets to spend a lot of time with the other deuteragonist, Gon. This show is mostly about their relationship and the way it changes over time. Because of that, Killua was intentionally written to contrast him in many ways. He is the black to Gon's white, the yin to his yang, the murderer to his not murder. Wait, back that one up? Whenever I have to explain Killua as a character, I like to use my favorite psychological exercise that I invented. When you hear the phrase, child murderer, do you think of someone who murders children, or a child who murders? If you map these options onto a Venn diagram, this little guy would fit snugly into the center. Killua is initially portrayed very similarly to Gon. The two meet and instantly form an adolescent friendship, mainly revolving around their shared desire to just have fun and play games. Unlike Gon, though, Killua seemingly has no reason to be participating in this story besides that he thought it would be fun. Overall, he's just incredibly innocent. Until he isn't. Over the course of the arc, more and more of the darkness at his core comes to the surface, all stemming from his upbringing. Killua's family, the Zoldicks, are all famous assassins. Killua is no exception, having been trained to kill since he was 3 years old. This creates an additional contrast between him and his soon-to-be best friend, and will be a major part of his journey going forward. With the main characters discussed, how do the supporting characters fare? They're fine. On the complementary side, the Hunter exam is absolutely flooded with vibrant, unique, and memorable character designs. The fact that I remember most of these guys, despite a lot of them never appearing again, is a testament to just how good of a character designer Togashi is. Their uniqueness also lends a good deal of tension to the scenario. Like most of its kind, the exam is set up into several distinct challenges with a pool of candidates being whittled down over time. Most writers wouldn't invest much effort at all into the participants that won't matter long term, which will cause your brain to instinctively write off generic-looking character designs on the jobbers that are in the crowd. This doesn't happen in Hunter x Hunter due to each character being distinct, meaning that it is nearly impossible to guess who will and will not make it to the end outside of the main characters and a select few others. All that said, most of these characters are severely lacking in personality. All you ever learn about them is mostly what you can see on the outside. He's a ninja, she likes bees. They are brothers, he likes trees. So on and so forth. Still, there are some worth introducing for later on in this review. The ninja guy here, Hanzo, is kinda cool, and his fight against Gon at the climax of the arc is probably its best moment. Honzu is the bee girl. That's about it for her. Netero is the chairman of the Hunter Association and knows how to handle his balls. Netero... Last but certainly not least is Tonpa. Known as the Rookie Crusher, he makes it his mission to sabotage the exam for first-time takers, and he has an almost unbearable amount of screen time. I hate him. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody important. I love Pakal with all my heart. He's best boy and nothing bad will ever happen to him. Hunter x Hunter is well renowned for its villains above probably anything else, but the opening largely lacks a strong villainous presence. This is because the antagonist is kind of the exam itself instead of any single character. Still, there are two antagonistic characters worth mentioning, as both will be major characters throughout the series. Hisoka, the horny murder clown, is possibly Hunter x Hunter's most famous character, and for good reason. He's just so weird and fun to watch. His whole shtick is that he gets sexual gratification out of killing difficult opponents, so he likes to scout out up-and-comers with great potential that he can kill down the line. This is why he ends up taking a particular interest in Gon, who he humiliates in combat at one point. The whole thing with him looking like a clown, though, that one does not get explained. Either way, Gon's loss to Hisoka greatly wounds his pride, which causes him to vow to become stronger and best the literal insane clown posse, which will be the main drive of a later plotline. His role in this plot is mostly just to demonstrate how far Gon still has to go in terms of strength. He also apparently knows a lot about the Phantom Troop, the guys who killed Kurapika's clan, but, I don't think that'll ever be important. The other main villain is this guy, who actually turns out to be this guy, who actually turns out to be Killua's older assassin brother, Illumi Zoldyck. This isn't revealed until the very end of the arc, where we learn that his purpose is to bring Killua back to his family after he ran away. Illumi doesn't get a lot of screen time here, but he uses what little he has to leave a strong impression. He's chilling, and his interactions with his brother carry a lot of disturbing implications about the kid's home life. The plot itself consists of a series of different challenges, ranging from island survival exercises to a one-on-one tournament, to a cooking competition, to even just a 4-hour-long run. These are all decent fun, but the best is undoubtedly the tournament. Unlike your usual tournament, losers advance instead of winners. Winning a single match automatically earns you your hunter's license. The other twist is that the only way to win is for your opponent to forfeit, with killing being forbidden under the punishment of disqualification. The only full fight we get to see here is Gon versus Hanzo, where the ninja just brutalizes and beats Gon for hours in an attempt to draw a concession from him. He even breaks his arm, but Gon never gives in, leading to probably the most powerful moment in the arc. Eventually, Hanzo gives up and accepts that he'll just have to win in the next round, making Gon a hunter at last.
So in other words, I've already given up the match, but you want me to continue fighting and try to beat you again, right? But first, we have to work together to find a way you can win so you can feel good about your victory. Is that right?
Yeah!
Moron!
This fight is very well done on a physical level, but what it shows us about Gon as a person is much more important. It is a well-documented fact that children from single-parent households are much more likely to engage in self-injurious and impulsive behavior. This would be the second time that Gon exhibits this kind of lack of regard for himself and his own health, the first being with the baby fox bear in Chapter 1, and it's far from the last time Jing's influence/lack of influence on Gon's life will rear its ugly head. This also shines some light on the long-lasting effects of Gon's sheltered childhood. His mind doesn't really perceive concepts like death or mortal injury due to how his aunt coddled him for his entire life. He barely even reacts when Killua straight up murders people on several occasions. The permanence of death holds no weight to him as he has never been taught to confront it. This mind also contributes to Gon's near-suicidal level of persistence in the face of danger, where Hanzo is able to realize that winning is not more important than the life and future of a child due to his worldly experience. The thought never even occurs to Gon. He's never been faced with permanent consequences in his life, so he doesn't realize that some things may be too precious to be worth putting on the line for his dreams. It's just a seed now, but all of these ideas will come to bloom later on. The arc ends with all of the protagonists earning their hunter's licenses, except for Killua, who was disqualified. After his harrowing encounter with Illumi and a little bit of brainwashing, Killua was overcome by his family's darkness and ends up murdering his opponent. After this occurs, he accepts his brother's ideology of being unable to escape his supposed true nature and returns to his family, all while Gon is passed out. Upon waking up and hearing the news, Gon promptly goes to retrieve his friend with Kurapika and Leorio in tow. Overall, this arc is a solid but standard opening to the story. It actually improves on repeat experiences, as knowing where the story is going allows you to pick up on lots of small details and foreshadowing that wouldn't have been clear the first time. I can see why some people drop off here though, so I guess you'll just have to trust me when I say it only gets better and better. Kinda. By the way, this arc is only 21 episodes in the anime, and they still somehow managed to include a recap episode with almost no new content, which is astoundingly lazy.